Anyhow, we went through OTU. The first half of OTU is ground school and day flying. Then you go on leave for a week, you come back, and you do about another 6 weeks, and you're doing more ground school and more, but this time night flying. And they send you on little, not real operations, but very close to it. You go as a stooge, so that to draw any fighters or opposition away from the main force of Bomber Command. Anyhow, we passed through 30 OTU. We then got posted up to Leconfield, their heavy conversion unit on Halifax's. And it was here that we picked up your flight engineer. Now, we were sitting in this room. You don't choose your flight engineer, they allocate him to you. We were sitting there, and I said to my skipper, I said, hey, I bet we get that old bugger over there. And sure enough, we got that old bugger over there. He was old enough to be nearly father to all of us. But he was a smashing flight engineer, and he was a smashing chap. He really, really was a good lad. So, as you finished heavy conversion unit, and it wasn't Leconfield, what was I thinking? It was Lindholm, up in Yorkshire. And we went to Lag Finishing School, and our skipper asked us if we would like to come to an Australian squadron. And he told us there were advantages. If you went to an Australian squadron, you came to a proper RAF station. There was no Nissen huts, no wooden huts, no living in the mud. Like Lumford Magna up the road, we used to call that Lumford in the mud. We came to Pembroke. When we arrived at Pembroke, we were allocated number 13 Airmen's Married Quarters, and that's where we lived for the rest of our time here in Pembroke, as it was called then. Whilst we were at Pembroke, we had we were a close-knit crew. We was always out together. We looked after each other. And it came that we had to do our first operation. Well, normally, your skipper would go out on a trip with an experienced crew, come back, and then you'd go on your Todd. That didn't happen to us, of course, no. The station commander here was Group Captain Huey Edwards, VC, DSO, DFC and Bar. And he turned around and said, I'll take Whitmarsh and crew. And we went to Freiburg. And on we got to the bomb line. Don't you think the Americans opened up on us and we suffered friendly fire? And we did get hit. Little bits of shrapnel came into the airplane. And being a group captain and a station commander, he wasn't very impressed with all of this. And he had a lot to say about it. Anyhow, that was our first trip. We then just carried on. We used to walk from our house, number 13 Airmen's Married Quarters, it was known. We used to walk then up to the mess for our breakfast. We'd then go up to the far hangar, the farthest one on the top corner up there. That was B-Flight headquarters. We used to go in there, stand around, sit around. It would be covered with blue smoke in those days. Everybody's smoking. And all of a sudden, perhaps the telephone would ring, then a voice would call, quiet. And lo and behold, the flight commander would turn and say, okay chaps, it's on. That's all you knew. You knew that there were ops on that night. And you would go off into the gunners, would go to the gunnery department, the bomb hammers to the bomb hammers, etc. And go out to your aeroplane, have a look at it. Now our airplane was just parked out there, and it was oboe. And you then come back down here to the mess. And by that time, there was a mayfly, what we called a mayfly, up on the board just inside. And if it had your name, the skipper's name, and your crew's name, you knew you were on ops that night. And then also there'd be a time for you to come for a crew meal, flying meal before you left, and the time you had to report for the briefing room. And that is what you did. When you got up to the briefing room, after your flying meal from here, you went up to the briefing room. The next thing you went in there, and you'd be sitting down in a row of 7 on each side of the aisle. All of a sudden you'd be called to attention. The station commander, squadron commander, and all the other people would come wandering in. You were told to sit down, and that was it. And then they'd draw the curtain across at the big board at the end of the room, and then you could see where you were going from Binbrook, the route that you were going to, what country you were going to target that night. If it was a long way over with a big moan would go, whoa. If it was a short one, everybody would be quite happy. Then you knew where you were going. From that, after being given a briefing by all the various departments, you would then go up to your dressing room, get dressed into your flying clothing, strip yourself from your pockets. You had no money, no bits of paper, no bits of cinema tickets, you know, because it was good stuff for the Germans to get hold of. And then you would take your parachute, and they'd take you out by transport to your car, to your aeroplane. When you got out to your aeroplane, your ground staff were out there to meet you. You'd have a little natter with them, talk about various things. Get in your aeroplane eventually, and when you started up, taxi out, and away you went. Now, the trip itself, you just didn't know what was going to happen. We did some trips where you didn't see a thing. It just went, you dropped your bombs, and you came home. But there are other times when you went through, there were searchlights, flak, fighters, you had the lot to contend with. And that was when it used to get a bit, a little bit dangerous, especially when you got flak. You could even smell it bursting, and you could hear ping of little bits of shrapnel from the shell coming into the aeroplane, and you just hoped and prayed that there wasn't big bits. And then of course you flew home. When you got back home here, you landed. Good, I saw your pundit flashing BK for Binbrook. You landed. The call sign for enough was a good one, typical for Australians. It was Leary. You would call up Obo de Leary, permission to land, etc. And you came in to land. Following that, you would go and get yourself undressed, get rid of your flying kit, your parachute and all this kind of stuff. You used to hand it in because it had to be looked after in a proper temperature, And then you would go down to the briefing room, or debriefing, and there, as you walked in the room, the station commander would be there, and the padre, giving you a glass of rum. And that used to be not bad. You felt a lot better after you had a few sips of rum. And then, of course, you were interrogated by the intelligence officers. After that, back down to your mess, and it was bacon, eggs, beans, and all the usual stuff again for a crew meal. And then back to your billet, get your head down. Now that was a typical day on the squadron here.